Welcome everyone to our Yoga Avec Moi's membership portal. Every Saturday we have a live Q&A session with Nahal. One of our sessions are with a guest lecture speaker. Today, however, we're having a free webinar on the single breath program since we're going to be launching it on February 6th to April 30th. And we want to make sure that everyone knows about it and everyone is very clear about what we are doing, how we are thinking of doing it, and so that when we begin, everyone is just like ready to go. So let's begin our membership portal sessions by sitting in a comfortable position, hands on our knees, sit bones, heart, and head all in one line, and begin focusing on our breath. And place your attention on your heart if it's not already there. And just quickly flash through everything that has happened in this day before this. And then once you get up until this moment, just forget about everything that has occurred until this moment. And fully commit yourself for the next hour to be present, to listen, to ask questions, to be engaged, and that there's nowhere else that you need to be for now. Keep your focus on your heart. Bring your attention gently back.灵性之子啊，我首要的忠告是拥抱一颗纯洁仁慈和意气风发的心。灵性之子啊，我首要的忠告是拥抱一颗纯洁仁慈和意气风发的心，亘古永生与生生不灭的王国就属于你，灵性之子啊，我首要的忠告是拥抱一颗纯洁仁慈 和一起放发的心，和一起放发的心。The translation of that prayer was, O Son of Being, my first counsel is this: possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be a sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. Whenever you're ready, bringing the palm of your hands in front of your chest and begin rubbing them vigorously and keeping your eyes closed. And whenever you're ready, just cupping your eyes in the palm of your hands and blinking open your eyes, looking left and right in the palm of your hands, opening up some cracks in your hands, looking left and right. And then whenever you're ready, just dropping down your hands. Cool, guys. All right. So today I wanted to go over some of the benefits of the breath practice. We've gone through the structure of the single breath program. We've talked about how the 7 valleys are going to be incorporated into the single breath program. And obviously, I actually should have probably started with this, of what the benefits of the breath practices are. I always assume that other people know about the benefits of it, but then this is a very comprehensive list. And actually, everything in this list that I'm going to mention today, 24 of the benefits, are actually only the ones that have been scientifically proven. So these are not even including all of the benefits. So when I say, when someone asks me what the benefits of a breath practice are, I almost get frustrated because it's like, what is breath not good for? Like literally, there's nothing. There's really nothing. I literally still don't know anything that the breathing or the breath practices are bad for. Literally do not know. I do, however, know that sometimes it can induce people into emotional states where they can freak out and go through some levels of anxiety. However, this is why it's really important to be facilitated by somebody specifically when you do the breath practice, because then it's a conversation. You can go back and forth, and it's very clear on how much your body can handle and how much you actually want to go. Some people actually want to go to those deep, dark places and crevices of their lives and dig out any of the darknesses. But others have no intention of doing that. So this is why having an instructor with you to guide you through the intensity level is going to be super important. All right, so let's go through some of the lists. All right. So as mentioned here, all right, let's open this up. Can everyone see that? Yeah.
The top is cut off.
The top is cut off. Okay, there we go. Here. Is this okay?
Yes. And then for your mom, if we put it on, when you go to view and we put it on standard, then it fills our screen with whatever you show us.
Standard.
Yeah. That would be for the viewers, because you're sharing your screen. So yours is fine.
Okay.
We see it. But when we click on the view standard, then it takes our pictures away. Well, it doesn't fully, but it shows it shows what you're showing. We don't lose any of it.
Okay, good. So that's good, right?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so for today, what I wanted to cover are like about 4 things. The first is the 24 benefits of having a breath practice, the emotional spectrum that breath practices can regulate, how varying levels of breath practices reach certain goals, and then how to layer and build your breath practice depending on what your specific goal is that you want to achieve in your life. So let's start with the benefits. Woo! So number one, conscious breathing practices have been scientifically proven. So these are all the scientifically proven ones to increase energy and boost immunity. That's just great if you're starting at a good place and then everything from that point onwards is just going upwards. Actually, from any place that you start any breath practice, it's just going upward. And actually, today's whole chat is going to be about wherever, first identifying where you are on the spectrum and then realizing how to go upwards and the different steps required in order to like level up. So the second is it lowers blood pressure and improves circulation, helps manage chronic pain. So if you've ever had like a knot in your shoulder, which I always do, when you breathe or consciously bring your attention to your breath, you can relax this like chronic pain that usually is developed and you get temporary relief and you kind of like almost you build more of a distance between your pain and your thing. And sometimes if more times often than not, it's psychological pain where it's something specific in your mind that's causing this pain. So when you bring your attention to your breath, which is like the present moment, that's where you create that distance with your pain and you're able to kind of separate it to be like, oh, I am not a person who is in pain all the time. It's not my identity. This is not like normal, or it's not like something that I have to wear like all the time. 4, it strengthens your lungs. Like obviously if you're doing breath practices, it's going to do this action more, expansion and inhalation. Improves mood and self-esteem. It makes you feel better. This is probably one of the first things that was the most shocking for me when I created the 12-week Pure Breath program, is I created it for people to make better decisions, as we will see in 19, that is to make smarter decisions. But people were starting to report feelings of happiness. And I'm like, I didn't create the Pure Breath program for you to feel happy, but great. Great that you are. Number 6 is that it releases toxins. It improves your sleep. Sleep, we know, is huge in terms of regulating your health, your mood, your life, your just like everything is implicated by sleep. In the previous couple lectures, we talked about the different layers of once you start to get to the core, how much of it you actually like what percentage of that is important in your life. And since sleep, we do like a third of our lives. If you improve the quality of your sleep, you actually imagine your day being like multiplied in terms of level of just like amazingness. In the sense that you'll feel more energized, your mood is better with your sleep. There's also so many of these things are interrelated with sleep as well. So if you think about it, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was like, I spend an 1/8 of my day. So 3 hours of my 24 hours is spent doing breath practices. However, a third of it is sleeping. And so I was like, wow, I'm like my major focus on life and teachings are like all about the breath, and yet sleep is so it's actually takes up more time. And sleep is actually one of the things that I'm going to be doing my research on, is to see how the conscious breathing practices during the day actually affects sleeping breathing, breath during sleep. Because that 8 hours of time that you're sleeping, I want to maximize it and make sure that just whatever we're doing in life, it's to like augment it and to make it better. So it increases physical muscle tone. So I was not aware of this, but once I started practicing breath practices, I got abs because I was literally like exhalating and inhalating my belly all the time. And this action, every time I suck it in like really tight, like all the way up into my spine, you literally are contracting. So it's like I wasn't really doing these breath practices for muscle tone, but like I got some abs action going on because of it. And because of that, it works on your digestive system. It also improves your digestion. Once you're using the diaphragm correctly, which is the diaphragm is the little parachute between your lungs and your abdominal cavities, that is like kind of like a thing. So if it every time you breathe, inhale and exhale, it goes up and down, you're kind of massaging your stomach, and you're also kind of massaging your lower organs, your intestines. And so you're creating more blood circulation in this area. So it also improves the digestion. I have lately been meeting a lot of people with digestive issues, and it's been like really concerning for me. I was like thinking like, why is it? Why is it so, why are people really being affected by digestive issues? And somebody was just like, well, obviously it's the second brain. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's the second brain, but it's like the way breath affects the brain and its function, like your mood, your chronic pain will go deeper. Like it'll be about decision making, all these things. If you take care of your first brain, the second brain naturally is the second thing that follows. It's actually a byproduct of it getting better is for that to heal. So 10 is that it helps to overcome addictions, especially nicotine cravings, although this addictions is actually this is why I specifically said this is about scientifically proven, but I'm pretty sure there are also other studies that have shown to overcome opioid addictions as well. So improve focus, attention span. This is something society doesn't teach anybody about. So literally the vehicle to all knowledge is the breath and breath practices. So what this does is once you improve your attention span, you're able to consistently think about things in a linear fashion to a progression point so that your creativity of things that you want to create are intense. So if you notice my earrings that I'm wearing, I just recently created this, and it's based off of this, actually the single breath program. It's inspired by this. If you read the backstory of the Conference of Birds, that I linked in all of the YouTube videos and all of the clips and things about the single breath program, you will notice that I was talking about the hoopoe bird, and that is a bird that's orange and has black and white feathers. And these earrings were actually inspired by the hoopoe bird. And so I got creative in multiple different ways. Obviously, when you're doing breath, like there's just creativity like happening like all the time. Like what it does is that it plugs you into like the universal source, and then from there all things become possible. So you really get plugged into a creative valve that you cannot get access into any other way, or at least like the breath is the quickest way that I know. And so it induces weight loss. So one of the things that was a fantastic byproduct of my breath practices was that I lost so much weight. So one of the reasons why people gain a lot of weight is that they don't have a balanced intake of oxygen and an exhalation of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is actually really heavy. Oxygen is O2. Carbon dioxide is a carbon and an O2. So it's a larger molecule. So when you exhale, if your exhalations are not like completely full, deep, and all the way down to the belly, and you're activating the vagus nerve, then this like what you're intaking in, literally in terms of air, is just you're taking in more air than you are letting out. And CO2, the more release of CO2 that you have in the body, this increases weight loss. So it's like if you're exhaling longer than you are inhaling, this is the thing that keeps you calmer. This is the thing that makes you lose more weight. You're offloading much more CO2 than you are intaking it. It's kind of like food. It's like if you're intaking more food than you are actually like metabolizing it, then obviously that's where you gain the weight. Like, you're not using that fuel that you're taking into the body. So the same is with the air, with oxygen. So if you're intaking in more air than you need, it's kind of like that oxygen, that carbon dioxide actually has to go somewhere and gets trapped in like different tissues and organs of the body and literally increases its weight. So 14 is that faster recovery from exertion and exercise. So when you exercise and you build like lactic acid, that soreness that you get the next day, if you do the breathing practices, you kind of balance the pH. The O2 is more acidic, the carbon dioxide is more alkaline. So when you do this, it kind of like also balances and regulates the pH levels in your body as well. So the lactic acid, the more carbon dioxide, the more exhalations that you do, it's important. That's why I always keep like a mouth tape. When I exercise, I tape my mouth to make sure that I'm inhaling and exhaling from the nostrils when I'm exercising so that my breathing is efficient. Meaning that when I'm inhaling in air, it's heated, it's moistened. And so by the time it gets down to my lungs, it's like it's exactly the right temperature that I need it. It's been filtered with all of my nose follicles. If there's any viruses or bacteria, they're kind of kept out through this way. But if you breathe through your mouth, like you have none of that. And also your mouth dries and also you're more susceptible to infections and all these things. So breathing through your nose is one of the major things that we're going to be learning about in the single breath program. And in week 2, I talk about specifically exercise and breathing and how to do that. So it improves oxygen saturation. So what this means is that this is kind of like a funny one. People think it does this. And by oxygen saturation, what it means is that when you're inhaling in oxygen, the red blood cell has about 4 tanks of oxygen that it can collect. And there's an iron like heme in the center of the molecule. And there's 4 kind of like floats. Like if you were to like want to create like a raft on the ocean, like you have like 4 balls on each side and the iron is probably you, like the center of that. And it's every red blood cell has 4 pockets for you to get into. So every time this red blood cell goes to the lungs, the oxygen comes in, it kind of goes into these 4 air pockets and then clicks and then gets transferred to the rest of the body. So people mistakenly think every time you breathe, all 4 of these oxygen levels kind of have to they automatically click in. It's like a chain reaction. It's like click, 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 based off of the electrons on the iron and on the oxygen. So people think that what breathing does is that it helps bind the oxygen more, but that's not necessarily the case. It's just that when you breathe consciously, you really are you're inhaling the air in, it's going, a lot of people when they breathe, they just like stop like right at their chest. It doesn't go down actually to their lungs, into the alveoli, to those little sacs. So there's like the actual gas exchange there. So you're kind of exerting a lot of force taking in air, but your body's not actually getting it because it's like just staying up here. So when it's saying it improves oxygen saturation, it's not accurate in the sense that it changes the oxygens from binding this, but what it's saying that it's ultimately is that you're becoming much more efficient in your breathing level so that when you intake in air, the energy that you use to intake in air and what actually gets transferred down to the rest of your body, that is improved. So a lot of people can mix that up kind of like a little bit. What it does, it also lowers inflammation. So if any part of your body, it just kind of like inflammation is really just like almost like a bruise or like a puff, like a mucus puff layered on your organ system that makes it less efficient to do whatever activity it's actually ordered to do. So when it lowers that inflammation, the organ is able to act much more efficiently and just like kind of be like light and chirpy and like up and going. It controls emotions. It slows the aging process. It slows the aging process. And you make smarter decisions. Definitely. And the reason for that is because this is the part that I was like almost like the major reason why I created the Pure Breath program initially and why I'm continuing the single breath program is that when you're when you are thinking of creative solutions, your body needs to be in a very specific, calm, regulated state. In order to be able to make that decision, you need to access certain parts of your brain in order to do that. But when your body is naturally in an anxious state, people try to force themselves to make decisions in those times. And you're just like, no, that's not a place. There's no playground there for you to make a decision or a safe decision or a creative solution or a solution that is like the best. Because depending on the solution, depending on the problem that you have, the solution almost presents itself immediately. So if it's especially in a crisis situation, it's usually something new that you need to bring into creation and bring into life rather than something you've known before. Of course, you will use the information there, but it's usually you need to kind of deal with the situation now, right? So you need to access a certain part of your brain in order to think of that creative solution. So if you don't, or if you can't access it, the solution is not to force a solution, be like, let me think harder. Let me just kind of try to do it. No, but it's actually to try to calm your body down to optimize the state in which those creative decisions naturally come about. Okay. So it's so important. And thankfully, there's only one thing that science has ever shown to kind of trump this automatic, like when the body goes into a flight or fright state, this is a wonderful thing. If that system doesn't work, it's called a disease, and it's actually very dangerous. And children who have this type of disease where their pain system is actually not activated, so they don't actually feel pain or feel fear, they die very young because there's nothing to stop them from actually like doing something. So it's actually amazing to have this fear system. So it's healthy. It's this healthy system, and it's an automatic system in the body. However, the only thing that science has described or learned about to trump this automatic system is if you consciously exhale 6 counts of breath, you can trick your body into thinking that it's safe. It's like your mind telling your body, oh, no, it's okay. We're okay. This is just a presentation that I'm giving. It's not that a tiger's in front of me and about to kill me. It's like or like, it's not that I'm being vulnerable with someone and I'm telling them that I love them and my heart rate is beating fast and like I want to die. It's okay. My body's fine. Like I'm not actually going to die. Like emotionally, it's a very vulnerable situation to be in. But your breath, if you know how to consciously regulate your breath in those moments, then you're able to kind of like remain in those creative solutions to think about what can you best do. So this is the reason why I created it in the pandemic, is literally for us to be able to access this. But I think everyone in their own lives, they need to have access to this, have access to like creative solutions like all the time. So calms the mind and the spirit. This is a must. And what this also does is that it cultivates present moment or mindful awareness. This is like a higher level practice when Literally, you're not trying to work on your health. You're not trying to work on all these things. And when you get into higher levels of practice, this is what becomes the major focus or major reason of why you do the breath practices, is to practice being aware and being calm. So 22, it enables conscious access to the nervous system. Woo, what a big one. So the nervous system is all of our input from the outside world in. So every day, if you got your health in check, if everything is good, there's nothing else. The only thing that you have to worry about on a day-to-day basis is that what your nervous system like feels in your surroundings. It's like if you go out into the world, you get a light or ball reaction or a car runs in front of you, that's going to be the thing that's going to dysregulate you. But then you come back to your breath, and then you just clean your nervous system, and then it goes back to zero, and then it goes back to calm. It goes back to like gentleness. So this conscious access to the nervous system, I had a point where my healer was like telling me the only thing, your health is great. The only thing you just need to worry about is your nervous system. Like there's nothing else. There's nothing else that you need to care about. It's just the daily maintenance of your nervous system. So the fact that we have a tool to consciously access our nervous system, to very intentionally wring it out and make it feel good and make it feel calm, then that's something else. So, and then also, this is what I love the most. This is what I love the most about just breath in general. It enhances your mind-body connection so that within yourself, your mind and your body are like in one line. When I did my yoga teacher training, I went to see a traditional healer, a Balinese healer, and he touched somewhere like right above my ear, like right here. It still hurts. And he was like saying your body and where your soul wants to be in your mind are all in different places. And I mean, like, let's be real. That's the whole reason why I practice yoga, is to bring all of these into balance, right? But he was like saying your soul is going there, your body is here, and your mind is somewhere else. And they're not all aligned. So the whole practice of yoga is actually to bring the body, the mind, and the soul all in one line. The fastest access to doing that is focusing on your breath, focusing on the present moment. Then you align your body, your mind comes here, your soul is happy, and then you're like, click. Or it's more like a stream that you kind of like align everything together. Then it goes like really fast and it's focused of like where it wants to go. So there was probably I said 24. We're missing one right here. But the last one is obviously enlightenment. That's like, boom, the benefits of that. So if you kind of noticed that the degrees of which I kind of put this list in kind of had to do with like going from sickness to normal to what it does for the minds. So once you're healthy, like what it can propel you towards. Just want to see if there's anyone else wanting to join us. Okay, so this is kind of it organized in a way where it is more it's more like clear. So here is the impact of breath practices. Let's start from the bottom. So the basics of like what it does to heal the body. So this is physical. It releases toxins, it lowers blood pressure and improves circulation, increases energy and boosts immunity, helps to overcome addiction, improve sleep, faster recovery from exercise or exertion, help manage chronic pain. And the reason why I put maybe help overcome addictions, you might be like, why didn't you put it here in improving efficiency and stuff like that? Is that you can't even improve anything if your body is in addiction to something or is in need of something or is feeling a lack of something. There's no way that you can go back to normal because you were never dependent on anything before. So becoming dependent on anything is automatically like giving your power away to some certain extent. So that's why it's on the like SOS sort of level. Then we go to improvements and efficiency. So what it does here, once you're like good, if you're like, I'm healthy, I don't really have any problems, what can the breath practices do for me? This is for you. This is the green part, yellow part of this aspect. Yellow is like the color of willpower, and green is the color of like the heart chakra. So of universal love. So this is where you get to like build on top of the health that you already have. And so what this does is it improves your focus, attention span, improves your digestion, makes it even better than what it was doing before. It increases physical muscle tone. You might look sexy, induces weight loss, get rid of all the heaviness so that you just feel light, strengthens your lungs, like makes it like a titanic like force of like lung power, improves oxygen saturation, and it slows the aging process. Like without the breath, none of these things kind of like happen. But then once you activate the breath, it's like all of your faculties kind of like zoom into focus. Then we go to even higher levels. Once it's like revved you up and like you're alert and ready to go, then what it does is it increases your mind-spirit connection. So it cultivates the present moment or mindful awareness and enables conscious access to the nervous system, enhances your mind-body connection, calms the mind and spirit, makes smarter decisions. You increase your creativity, and you control your emotions, and you improve your mood and self-esteem. So this is what the impact of health is, like to various degrees. So if you're physically ill, you would be looking at this. This is probably where you're going to be thinking about starting, is that if you have any of these issues, this is going to be where you're starting from. But it doesn't mean, well, we're going to be doing breath practices for 12 weeks. So I'm hoping that improvements would be there like way before the end of the program, so that there's possibilities of you moving upwards and even like all the way along the spectrum. So even though this spectrum is like kind of like this, it's not very linear as like you go from here to here. It's sometimes it could be that you jumping, because in order you improve your digestion, that helps your sleep. If you improve your sleep, it helps your digestion. So they're all kind of related to one another. It's just once you start getting activated, this stream of light literally is what the breath, it's like the highway. It's like the highway. You get on track. Once you're on this like light spectrum, you just get access to like all of these things. So I wanted to pause here. We covered like the first two things. Were there any questions that anybody wanted to ask before I move on? We will have questions at the end, but I just wanted to see if there's anyone who wanted to clarify anything here.
Are we going to have this one also to look?
To look at? You mean on YouTube? Yes, I'll be posting the replay on YouTube. Okay, so let me move on. So here is how the breath improves varying states. So here's what I wanted to share. We're going to start from the lower half. So let's imagine we're in an SOS situation. What does the breath do for you? It keeps you alive. You have to continue breathing, right? In order to keep you alive. So maybe this is not a great example, but I'm like thinking absolute SOS. I'm thinking about refugees, Syrian refugees going from one country to another and traveling by boat, holding like a boat and just like having their face smacked by the ocean. The only thing that they need to do in that moment is continue to breathe in order to stay alive. You know, their arms probably going to be in pain. They're, you know, like they do need to pay attention to a certain extent, but all they do, if they just keep holding on and breathe, they will remain alive. It's that simple, right? If they don't drown, don't go into the water, like, you know, that's they're like, they will maintain life life. Not a thriving life, but life. Then we go up. Let's say we're distressed. We're not in SOS, but we're like really not doing well emotionally. We're like really upset. There's a lot of chaos happening around us. And what does the breath practice help us do in this moment? What this does, it prepares your body to think of creative solutions and a way out. I was trying to talk to some people about doing the breath practice with refugees that are in this state of distress. They're displaced from their houses. They don't have jobs. They might have children. They're in a country. They're not in immediate physical danger. They have food. Let's say they have food, shelter. These basic things are there. But what to continue onwards, it's a lot, right? This is where the breath would be super helpful in helps people calm their mind enough to think of, all right, in this chaotic situation that's not ideal, what is the next best step for me for success? And if you don't have access to your breath in that moment, whatever decision you make thereafter, before you calm yourself down, is going to be haphazard. And it may not actually be the best decision for you. And it may actually, in fact, be more harmful than actually helpful to you. So to just take a second and to actually go the opposite way, to calm your body down, to be like, all right, I have spiritual faculties and mind and imagination and creativity. There's so many possibilities of how I can get myself out of here. How do I access those amazing faculties? It's by knowing what kind of physical state your body needs to be in order to do that. Okay. Addiction is where your life might not be completely in distress, like the refugees and things like that, but you're really not happy with whatever you have. And you have this addiction. What the breath can help you do is to overcome this addiction so that you can be going on higher levels. Then let's say, for instance, you're at a disease level. You have some sort of disease that you're battling with. What it does here, it lowers blood pressure, improves circulation. Circulation literally improves everything else. Having circulation just allows like toxins to be released and all of these things. But this is not the only benefit in the body that we were talking about, right? So there's much more in terms of disease that it does here. The breath heals that. So let's say, for instance, your disease where you don't have a disease, but you're not sleeping well. You're not sleeping well. You can't function during the day. You can't focus. Your mood sucks. You're depressed. You don't have a prescription for your depression, but you're just like, life still's not great. Your sleep, what the breath practices does is improves the length and quality of it. Okay. Let's say, for instance, you got your sleep under control and you're like, I'm always just sick all the time. I sleep really well. I sleep like a baby, but I'm always sick. I'm always getting infections. I'm always getting like little short things, not big diseases, things that I need to be on long-term medication for, but I'm always just feeling a little off. What it does, the breath practices, it boosts your immunity so that you don't get sick so often. All right, let's say, for instance, you're good to go. You're like a happy camper, whatever. What it does, then the breath practices, it helps to increase your attention span, and keeps you focused, gets you really aligned. Let's say, for instance, all right, you got really intentional about your focus. You're super down. Then what it does, your emotions, it improves your mood and self-esteem. The next time you think about, oh, I'm such a terrible person that sucked. Oh, wait, no, I focus on my breath. No, you know what? I'm good. I'm actually doing a really great job and I'm so proud of myself. You know, you're able to regulate your emotions like a lot more better. Then after the emotions, it's deeply connected with the mind. So what your emotions are like the things that are fluctuating. The mind is also fluctuating with different things. And what the breath can do in this moment is that it calms the mind and the spirit. If you're having negative thoughts, or you're having chaotic or sporadic thoughts, and it's not linear to be able to conclude or to make an act and do something, then focusing on your breath will help you make better decisions. Then what it does, all right, you got your emotions, your mind, attention are all in one line. What this does, it connects you between your body, mind, and your soul. Okay. Once the body, mind, and the soul are together, you have peace, like emotional fulfillment. You feel joy, you feel ecstasy, you're there, pleasure, wholeness, it all. And that is not even the highest state. The highest state is enlightenment, whereas actually it's an amalgamation of all the emotions. You might feel joy, you might feel pain, extremes of both at the same time. But it's actually, that's still holding duality. That is a step between these two. A step even above that is feeling true poverty and utter nothingness. This is the 7th valley that we're going to be covering in the 7 valleys. So this is how the breath improves in varying states. So here, it's kind of similar in the sense, but I kind of changed the levels here. So the spectrum of breath practice improvements. So depending on where you are, if you're in an SOS situation, it sustains you, your basic survival, it keeps you alive. If you're distressed, it prepares your body to think of creative solutions and a way out. Addiction, it overcomes addictions with nicotine, disease, lowers blood pressure, improves circulation, stress. So you're not diseased, but you're stressed. What this does, it reduces stress and inflammation for ease. Just all of your functioning of your organs work better. And then let's say this is the normal place. This is where it's green. You're good. What it does, it promotes your immunity, health, and wellness. I'm just saying the same thing in a different way. Because I find that like when you're the middle components, like you're normal. And then once you're normal, then you start exploring your faculties and your potentials. Like, what more is there to me? What can I improve? And then that's like your attention span. So whatever you learn, you're like really focalized and you can actually yield fruit from it. And then you have your emotions. It improves your mood and self-esteem, your mind. It calms the mind and spirit, makes you make better decision. And the top part is basically the same. Integration connects your body, your mind, your soul, peace, holistic fulfillment, enlightenment again. So the tops and the bottoms of these are basically exactly the same. SOS situation, breath practices will help you live. The highest level of breath practice is for the purpose of enlightenment. And in the middle, we might be somewhere here. I think this is usually where the majority of people are. But there's a lot that are also struggling on the bottom quartile of this. But basically, wherever you are, you just enter this stream. It's like you enter the stress stream and then you keep going upwards, upwards, upwards like this. This is an arrow going up along this spectrum. So it's like how or why I decided to create, or like why I got into my yoga practice in the first place was actually because of back pain. Let's say it's for disease. And then it was like it reduced my stress. And then slowly, this became the goal rather than it actually being the goal right now. When I started, I had a very different purpose. But then over time, what happens is that your goals start to change with your breath practices. So I think this is where we're at for today. Are there any questions here? You're welcome to turn on your video if you would like. All of this is going to be, the replay of this is going to be on YouTube. So if you feel comfortable being on YouTube, then welcome to show your face. Hi.
You're very thorough. You really are. And you cover not only from one perspective, but you also try to offer different perspectives because not everybody receives the information the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I was just like, oh my gosh, I got to tell this person about this. I got to tell that person because you don't realize, when you think of breath, when you just think of the word breath or to breathe, you think, okay, I got to breathe because that's how I'm going to stay alive. And you have no idea how complex it is. And we think about, and I know for myself in my own experience, I have been learning more and more about breath for myself, because I used to be a very shallow breather. And that was just based on my history and my life experience, because and I've heard other people say it, that you would breathe very shallow, in a very shallow manner, so they couldn't find you, right? So that you couldn't experience trauma or difficulties at the hands of others. So you would end up breathing just basically to survive. I have talked to so many people about that, where they've said, yeah, I never realized how shallow a breath I had until it became aware by doing yoga or by just learning to breathe, period. And now this is like a doorway that's opened, and information that has been gifted for us to realize that it is not just to breathe. It is not just to survive. It is to strive and thrive.
Say that again. Woo-hoo!
It is to strive and thrive.
Literally. I think one of the things that has shocked me, I made like a vision board, and I was like putting all the books that I wanted to read about breath throughout this year to prepare for my PhD. And I realized that there was not a single author that I was reading that is a woman. And that I didn't realize, that I was thinking, maybe this is my ignorance. This is my ignorance, probably. That there's actually no female authors, or many female authors, who write or have researched about the breath. And this aspect of how, what you were saying, of how take as little space as you can, it's almost related to the breath. Take as little breath as you can, enough to just remain alive, and that you're not allowed the full expansion in your lungs of taking in air. And that I was not really trying to break any glass ceiling or anything with this, that I literally just realized this like a week ago, that apparently it's daring. How dare I? First of all, just take deep breaths. Second, I don't think it's really hit me of how rare it is for a female to be teaching, who has already created a breath program, but is teaching a breath program. First of all, to just be a woman who breathes is apparently a rarity. Then for me to be a teacher of breath is not common right now. Is not common. And so this is it just kind of hit me in like a very different way, to be like, this is a very radical move, not only for me to start this, but like, oh boy, the people I'm going to bring with me, to just tell them how they're like, they have the right to breathe, and that they can take up as much space and air in this life as they want. Woo! I didn't know, I was like, I had this whole message in the background, but apparently that's happening. It's happening. Like it's
very profound.
It's like
it's very profound. And what hits me too is, as you're talking, and I'm just like bringing all this information in it, and especially when you're talking about the breathing, I know for myself, the only time I was directed by my male doctor to breathe, and actually
during birth.
during birth, during the Lamaze classes, the women that would stand in there, it was okay, now you need to breathe this way and you need to breathe that way. And that was so that you could bring forth the life with less trauma to your body. It was to help to push that child out. But the background picture of it is so that it was less trauma to your body and less trauma to the baby. Because if you held your breath, you're constricting yourself and you're also constricting the birth passage for the infant.
Mm-hmm.
And so breath, it brings forth life in a whole different mindset and a whole different view. And then, you know, just the fact that you said, no, there's no women authors, there's no, this is like, whoa, you're going to be writing a book.
That's literally
when you're done.
Literally, I was like, well, I'm just like, then I have to. It's like I'm cornered here. Because literally just that. I'm like, the only time women are asked or allowed or encouraged to breathe is only during birth. Pop out our baby, give us our population, and then you stop breathing after that. Like, there's no other time we're
not
allowed.
Only that, think about it. Why? I just thought about why they want you to breathe, right? It's usually a male doctor.
Yeah.
Except in my last one, I ended up having a midwife. But for my first two, I had a male doctor. When you do that and your body relaxes, guess what? The birth process goes faster and that doctor can sleep faster and doesn't have to stick around.
Yeah.
Okay, what focus is that, right?
Like the book that I have, literally the book that I feel like I have to write is like how just women have never been able to breathe or never been allowed to take air in. And that literally the only example that I have right now for the book is the birthing process. And if you think about it, if this is the only time that women are allowed to breathe and just like shut it thereafter, this is how, or like I was actually sitting at a table one time and it was all women, all the men's, like the few men that were there, they all had gravitated somewhere else. It was actually during the World Cup. They went to watch soccer. It was just us ladies. And we, on the conversation, very immediately started to change as to all the things that we're afraid of. And they were all talking about how they've stopped, including myself, how we have stopped ourselves from going further because of fear. And what I have to say is the reason why we're fearful is actually because our breath becomes shallow and irregular and we can't see a way out. We can no longer go beyond that point. Once we're fearful, our breath starts to change differently, which actually stops us from doing a lot of the things that will expand us and free us as a human soul. And so literally I was sitting there, just everyone was talking about, it was like skiing, going on a mountaintop on ice, you know, getting bruised, like all of these things. It's just like I went up, I went up once and I was like super scared, so I didn't go again. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how much have women like held themselves back because of fear? But also, oh my gosh, if they knew how to breathe, wouldn't they would be feel empowered that they're like, I can do this. I can overcome this. I mean, like, honestly, to be honest, like when I was at that table, I was like, we're all smart. We're not going on the mountain. Like, I don't want that. I don't like skiing. Skiing is not my thing. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. There's other things that I do that's freaky, like jumping off like buildings and stuff like that. I'm like, I should probably have a little bit more fear and the breath doesn't help because I'm able to override it, you know, for some dangerous things. But like skiing is like, I don't care to be good at it. But if it's something that you truly want to be good at, or you're not going for it because of fear, it's almost like if you knew, you tried it and you didn't like it, then you have the knowledge, conscious knowledge that it's not something you want to do. But if it's just fear, you never even get to try. Woo! Oh my gosh. I don't, this is this is not something that any human, woman or man, should ever feel restricted, that they can't do something because of they don't have control over their faculties.
Well, fear has overcome them. There's a true story that I have used in my classes. There's a 75-year-old woman. She was a grandma, and the car was on a, I don't know if you've seen China, but it was jacked up because her grandson was working under it, and the jack slipped and the car fell on her grandson.
Oh my gosh.
And she picked the car up to get him out from under. And then the newspapers and all the reporters are coming to interview her, and she refused. And a year later, she finally agreed to a gentleman who had come the year before. She finally agreed to an interview. And he asked her, why did you wait so long or whatever? And she said, because it took me a year to really absorb what had happened, because all of my life for 75 years, or consciously, let's say for 60 or 65 years consciously, I have told myself I am only capable of X. And this situation proved me more capable. And in this last year, I've been thinking, how many things have I passed up in my life because of fear and a belief system that I was not physically capable to do things. So he asked her, well, what have you always wanted to do? And of course, she comes from an era where women never went to college. She said, I wanted to be a teacher. And she's 76 at that time. And he says, well, why not go back to school now? And she goes, because I'm 76 years old. She goes, I'll be 80 when I graduate from college, right? And he goes, guess what? You're going to be 80 anyway in 4 years. Are you going to be 80 with a college degree and teaching, or 80? She went back to school. She got her degree and she went to teach.
Amazing.
But the point of the whole thing is that we limit ourselves.
Yes.
And I believe part of that too is physiologically, if we do not have a strong foundation within our physical body, oxygenating ourselves, etc., that is part of the limitations that we unconsciously have lived with. And now it's to become conscious.
So true. I think just to share one last thing, we're so like over time. Actually, but let's end here. Actually, wait, no, I have time for this story. I've realized that every time our time has been 108, and this is actually a very universal number in yogic thing, but I'm gonna have to edit the little bit in before. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a perfect number at the end too. But something that has been really interesting, I went to a Chinese doctor a while ago that told me that my rib cage was like bunched up. She almost like took her shirt and she went like this. She's like, this is what your rib cage is like, your bones. And I was like, oh my God, like, what do you do with that? Like, how do you like heal your bones? I was like, I've thought about a lot of things about how to heal people, but I'm like, bones? How are you gonna fix that kind of stuff? This is literally what my breath practice does. My breath practice naturally guides my body in a way to smooth out this bone. And because I do these breath practices for long periods of times, it completely changes my pH levels, the acidity in my body. The acidity in my blood softens my bones, but does it in a very gentle way, so that when I'm moving it, I'm able to smooth out the bones. So it's like really interesting how I'm like really blown away by the human body. And also like, when I fast, my nose, I can feel, the cartilage that you have here, the bones in your nose, like it starts becoming soft, something that you thought was so hard starts becoming more like liquidy or like softer. And it's like, what does fasting do? It detoxifies you, removes all your toxins and things like that. So it's like anything that you thought was hard in the body or solid and immovable is actually not. And it's fluid. Everything in the body can be healed. Everything, if you just access the right sources. And when you practice breath practices, you're kind of like plugged into that universal force, in that you're able to kind of do the impossible. And one of the beautiful things about breath is that once you're plugged in, your body knows how to heal itself. It doesn't need external forces. Like in Chinese medicine, it says, 知己, Actually, I was saying another quote. 求医不如求己. To go ask for a doctor's advice is not as good as asking yourself. It's the same concept in yoga of self-inquiry, asking yourself what you need. You have all the information there of your history, of all the things that you did, to know what you need to do to move forward. So to ask yourself and to trust your body's natural healing mechanisms of what it can do is literally better than if you were to go to a doctor. Of course, mind you, everyone go see like a Western scientifically trained physician if you have a sickness, but don't remove that empowering step before yourself, before you engage a doctor, to double check to see how you can heal your own body and what your body needs, because your body has an intelligence that the doctor cannot access, but your body knows and is well aware. But the exception is that it needs to access it when you're in a calm state. Then it can do its thing. When your body's stressed, it's busy trying to keep you alive. But if you bring it to calm, then it can bring you to healing. So I think that's something that, like, yeah, breath is just one of those things that it will just expand your life possibility. It is not just about the breath. It is literally so much more. And again, like the spectrum, why I thought it was so important to like really talk about all the different things that it can do is to really show to everyone that depending on what your goal is, that's where your starting point is. But it doesn't mean that you're going to stay there, and it means that it's available to you to explore the rest. But whether you just want to do it for your health, you just want to increase your attention span, or whatever it is, you just kind of like go through it from that level. So thank you all so much for joining. Really appreciate everyone's being here.
Can I say one quick thing?
Yes, go ahead.
You were mentioning about the addiction, and you put it nicotine. How about those people, they have a addiction to other things, for example, coffee or tea or munching, every few minutes to put food in their mouth.
Definitely.
Or, some bad habit,
1000%. Every time someone, if they were to bring their attention to their breath right before they were to reach for a chocolate bar, their coffee, whatever, and they focus on their breath, it's a way to overcome it. That's actually how I stopped drinking coffee. I actually realized I like smelling the coffee much more than I like drinking it. I hate it. I actually don't like the taste. It's disgusting. It's bitter because when I'm present and I actually taste the coffee, it's acidic. It like makes my throat like an acid reflux, all of these things. I'm like, I realize I really don't like it, but I love the smell. And after actually I stopped drinking, I continued to make it, but just to smell it. So it's like some people don't. This is why the single breath program is a habit building program. I said that the breath is going to be the thing, it's going to be the habit that we're going to use for this program. but it's so slow and it's structured in such a way. That's why I went so deep into talking about the structure of how it is. Is because once you learn about the program and its structure, then any goal that you have, whether it's to get off coffee, whether it's to get off smoking, whether it's to get off addiction, whether it's to stop munching, you would be able to use the same method that I teach the breath to you to anything else. Like just how I got off coffee was slow, gradual. I still made the coffee. I smelled it. So, you know, that relationship, you don't just stop drinking coffee cold turkey and just kind of like leave it out there, because sometimes it's the habit of making it. Then it was kind of like I enjoyed the making of it. I'm like, every morning, what am I going to do with my hands? What am I going to do with my hands? Like the first thing I did when I went, I would like, even when I traveled, I would take my coffee mugs with me. It'd be the first thing I do. It provide that stability and that consistency. I'm like, that consistency and stability is great, but it doesn't need to be coffee. It could be something else. Now I use it with prayer. Now I use it with my breath practice. Now I use it with reflection. Now I use it with water, with lemon water, hydrating myself first thing in the morning. You know, whatever it is, it's the method in the single breath program that is actually going to teach you to reach any goal. This is why I really emphasized that the single breath program is above anything. It is a habit building program. I am teaching you the breath because everyone, I think, needs to be breathing. But in addition to that, there is a component and level of intensity of habit that there is no program that I know that does this, that really teaches you how to have the breath sustainably. Everyone teaches you all these cool gymnastic breath practices and how to get really intense. Nobody teaches you how to keep it. I'm teaching you how to keep it, build upon it. Actually, that was one thing that we didn't mention in today's lecture, because I did mention the last thing was like how to build on top of these breath practices. But essentially with that spectrum, whatever it is that you want to build, whether it's like, you're like, I want the attention, I want to have conscious awareness, but I'm also ill. You can have certain breath practices that are optimized for your healing of the physical body, and then also practice simultaneously the breath practices that are good for building attention. So it's like you could have them both at the same time, but also build towards it. You know, this is how you slowly layer so that your breath practice is more complex. So you go going more to the blue side of the spectrum than you are to the red. So that's something I didn't quite like mention, but hopefully that was clear in sharing like how to build, how we're going to build on top of the breath practices and make it so that you're going upstream.
I think you have to add this one, you know, improve habit.
Yeah.
Maybe lots of people, maybe they want to stuck to something, you know, the habit, and they, you know, habit of reading book, habit of anything, you know. I think better you add this habit too, you know, this.
So next week we have our last info session before the program starts on Monday, on the Saturday. And that you just gave me the topic for next week. Next week, our topic is going to be on habit building, on how to build a habit. That's a major component. That's a major component of the single breath program. We haven't talked about that yet. Just as thinking of the benefits of the breath practice, it didn't occur to me to share with you. Now I'm like, I know. Now I know. I need to do that.
Well, and what you did for us tonight too is, when you think about it, when you're breathing in, what are you doing? You're expanding your lungs. You're right. You're increasing, you're expanding your lungs. So when we gain this knowledge and this information, we're expanding our knowledge and we're expanding our possibilities, which help us to not only breathe, but to grow and improve in our lives.
You couldn't have said it any better. Mic drop, and the session is over, because that was a beautiful end right there.
Thank you.
See you guys next week. All right. Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.